Hello, do you mind if I ride with you up to the 7th floor?
You may ride up with me, and if we push it 3 times, it's like fuel injection. Faster.
Kind of like the little jets at the back of your shoe.
Yeah, I bought a pair of those blinkety shoes. It wasn't that long ago either.
That's
I
fine.
am emotionally immature.
I hear you. I am not, however.
I'm emotionally immature, that's what I meant to say.
I am. And I plan to stay that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
See
thank
you
you.
tomorrow, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we got another.
Sherry Wickstrom. Come on in.
Oh, goodness. Hello, how are you? Did you have a nice Thanksgiving?
I did. And yourself?
Yeah, it was good. Were you in town or?
Yeah, we went all the way out to St. Michael.
Road trip.
That's where my in-laws, some of my in-laws are.
Okay.
In St. Michael's.
Okay, good.
We just did a big with Dan Williams. We did the VFW gave our church a flag, and so we had our Boy Scouts receive the flag and all that big hoopla, yeah. And so now everybody wants to claim. Now this is interesting. We've had these boys as a part of our boys group in our church for a long time, and no one's really clamored for them. But they see them at this event in their Boy Scout uniforms and all that stuff, and so now they're like, can we have them as junior ushers? Can we have them as, all these other things? So,
That's neat.
yeah, it's kind of fun.
Well, you could have asked to meet with us, but I think one of the issues that we certainly can talk about, and Commissioner Severaja probably has others, is where do you see your role, and how does it relate to community and services that we provide in the community when the requests are, and you had some thoughts on charging and what level we should charge, if at all. I think it's pretty clear that anything you do in Anoka County, if there is any funds coming in, it will come to the county. And I've heard conflicting amounts as to what the expectation is that you're to bring in a year. That when the cuts were made, you were told you had to go out and earn some money, but I'm told that you almost got what you needed to get this year.
Yeah, and so we'll start and we'll end with that part, the money part. So as you know, John Robinson has been gone 6 years now. Prior to him, in his position, his focus was very internal to Anoka County and, counting and all that kind of stuff. So counting numbers, running reports, and being a resource or a point of resource for employees and that kind of stuff. So when I came, I had that as the baseline, and I saw some ways that we could operate differently. So doing trainings within the county for county employees has paid some dividends, I believe, in terms of how people work together efficiently and that kind of stuff. An outgrowth of that is that as employees have gone out, and as I've done my own training out and about, folks have inquired about the services that Anoka County, and more specifically, that I can offer as Anoka County to them. And so I think that my position is changing and it's growing. I believe that, for example, the Sheriff's Department, I've been talking, well, I had a conversation with Sheriff Stewart about doing roll call trainings, 15-minute diversity trainings in the roll call trainings. So, and that's an area up until this point that we haven't explored in HR, we haven't in my department at all. And so there are growth areas within the county that we can expand the training. Most of my training has been with human services in the time that I've been here. So having said all of that, I also know that budgets are getting tight and things are getting squeezed. I've had to reduce my budget significantly, like everyone has. And so one of the things that, and I shared this with Melanie before we go into our budget talks, I do not want to cut programs that, or dollars associated with our internship program. I know that there's some mixed feelings about that, but I really believe that the entry-level positions that we can introduce folks into the county, I think that's very important. And so I said with Melanie that I can cut all other things. I can cut out my mileage, I can cut out other things, but I really want to save money in those positions to get students into the county. And so to be able to offset some of that, I think it's important that my department raise funds. I'm not exactly sure how much we should raise, how much we can raise. We're not in the business of doing diversity training, so market rate stuff I don't know is appropriate, but those were some of my thinking. That was some of my thought process in building or reshaping my role here in Anoka County. So those are some of the thoughts. We've done a lot of great work for free. For example, Our Savior over in Circle Pines is a church that I've worked with they have something called Radical Hospitality, where they are looking to include diversity in their congregation. And so they reached out and said, how can you help us? And they came through the door of Anoka County, and so I've been working with them. I stopped attending because they didn't need my services probably about a month or two ago, but prior to that it's been about a 6-month period. Done some work with Centennial. I've done some other work within the county and the community, and so that's kind of how I see my role is to be a community liaison and make those connections. So.
You and I had some conversations here a few years ago after you first came, and I think if I recollect, that conversation was, you said, how do I know what I'm supposed to do around here? I come in and talk to Jay, and Jay says, what should I do? And Jay says, well, whatever you do is fine. I guess Jay wasn't really in tune to what that role of that job was. John Robinson sat in his office and he did count numbers and so forth. You have embarked in Juneteenth and bag lunches and a lot of different things over the years. I was talking to Martha Weaver the other day, and she said, you're just a bundle of ideas. And the question is how do we harness those ideas and know what direction we're going to go? And so I think somewhat there's been a little misunderstanding or lack of understanding exactly what your role is here. Is your role to get more minority workers into the workforce? I would say yes. Is your role to get training to county employees, then where does that fit in, working with our saviors or a school or that type of thing? Do you see any of that, or
No, I do see that. And I also, for example, I wrote down, I'm on 7 boards within the county, directly associated with the county or things that I inherited from John Robinson. And so,
So what are those boards that you're on?
yep, so
I know you're on ACAP, and are you on Alexander?
I am on Alexandra House. I'm on the North Star Council Youth Diversion Program.
what is that?
That's
that-
Boy Scouts, right?
That's the
Oh,
Boy
okay.
Scouts, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then the Domestic Violence Council of Anoka County.
Now, who
How-
runs that?
So it is Alexandra House is the fiscal agent, and
Is this where the people from the hospital and others get together on a fairly regular basis? And
It's not the Donna McDonald Violence
No.
Free Anoka County, but
there's another
there's
group.
they're connected. They're connected to that. So, like for example, with Donna McDonald, I work with her on the Boys to Men,
right.
coaching Boys into Men project. So that's my relationship there. Alexandra House is obvious. The LEO board, Law Enforcement Employment Opportunities Board, and they meet monthly, and we participate in their career fair as well as their scholarship fund. And their charter is to get minorities and women into law enforcement. So,
So what do you mean their scholarship fund? What do you mean?
yeah, so their career fair pays for their scholarship fund. And so there's so we purchase a table and space at their career fair at about $500. And the monies that they collect from their career fair pays for scholarships for students. And the way that we participate in that is I work on the committee to select the participants. We interview the participants, and at the end of the year, we give the scholarship away. And the end of the year for that program is summer. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the other one is the National Association for Human Rights Workers, and I am a board member at large. So
Is that in another county?
that is not in Anoka County. That's something that I inherited Leo and the National Association from John Robinson.
And I think I missed one. So ACAP, Alex House, North Star Council, the Domestic Violence Council, Leo, and National Association.
And the Equal Justice Committee from the
Yeah.
10th District.
Or committees that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
So what is that committee?
So that they work with the state to make sure that if there are any complaints of discrimination or anything like that, they review those and they send those on to supervisors or the appropriate entities. So they're kind of a hearing board for complaints.
You also work with the Employees Club?
I do work with Employees Club, and so I have them as a responsibility. This last year, I also helped with the charitable campaign, and I'm supposed to work a little more closely with Hard at Work, but I kind of find it difficult to squeeze all of this stuff in. And do it, to be quite honest, at 100%. With all of this stuff, as well as some of the reports and trying to do training and that kind of stuff, I probably average at about 85% effectiveness in a lot of this stuff.
I guess I see, in my mind, looking at kind of the core functions that you're supposed to be involved with and doing, I would think that that's where we would want to have most of your time dedicated to. And I think it's great to be involved in the community, but I think that there are also limits. And when that pretty soon sucks up your time so that you can't focus on the main functions of your job and make sure that you're giving that 100%, then maybe some of those have to go. Would be my thought.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I know you're in a little different position, you know, and I know that you're wanted
Yeah.
because of your knowledge and so forth. But, you know, if I have another manager type person, I'd say maybe one or two organizations.
Yeah, I think
but-
you have to prioritize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I would look for that from the two of you. I mean, to be quite honest, my job is as vast or as limited as we create it. And so my job is to work for the county and do what the county wants. So yeah,
You know, we really do need to get more minority workers here. We really do. You know, our minority population is increasing. We need to have people that can interact with people of same cultural backgrounds. To me, that's got to be one of the highest priorities. Although it's tough. We just had a job open for a correctional officer in the corrections department. They had 380 applicants. They screened out all but 150. We're going to interview 150 people for that job. So, I mean, it's tough, but we really, to me, that's got to be a high priority. You know, I don't know if your interns, are we getting them into the system? I mean, are they getting hired after their internship, you know, in our county or someplace, or?
Right, I mean, I guess that would be the question. So we've had, I don't know how many interns. How many of them are currently working at Anoka County?
yeah. Out of the 3 years that we've had this implemented, and to be quite honest, we have had 2 that have transitioned into full-time employment. And that was mostly because they were coming from the job training center. And so what we did is we kind of did some self-supportive work kinds of initiatives, and that person was it was very easy for them to transition into an employment. A lot of our interns, because and I tried to get the phrasing trainee, are typically a bit young for a transition directly into the county. I had, I don't know if you recall Bob, who was with us. He came from Anoka Ramsey, and he's 55, and he wanted to go on and do his master's stuff. There was no position available for him when it was time to transition. He had the education, had some experience, but we're at it's just a.
So do we, would it be more effective to strategically look at where we tend to have a limited number of vacancies and focus on people who are interested in internships in those sort of fields so that we have a better chance of actually getting them employment and in the door? I'm thinking, economic assistance. Obviously, we have turnover.
Well, the other thing is we hire temporaries.
Right.
We hire temporaries in our correctional facilities. We hire temporaries in income maintenance. We're going to be hiring temporaries at the license center, and sometimes that's an easy way. Number one, you're paying them. They're learning the job, and then when it comes time to compete with those 300 people out there, you have a known entity, so you tend to get through the system quicker. So, internship is one thing. Getting people into the temporary positions that we don't have to go through the big hoops to hire, maybe another direction that we should take a look at.
Yeah, and if I may speak freely, one of the we advertise well. We get not tons, but we get qualified applicants through the process. What typically happens is that when we get to the hiring manager, that's where the decision is made. And it's often not made with minority candidates. It's made with another candidate because they feel that they're better in all sorts of different kinds of ways. However, and I'll share this story. This happened with the License Center. So being in HR, stuff floats across my desk of applicants all the time. And so we had a situation in License Center where they were looking at some applicants. And one of the HR reps said, take a look at this list, tell me what you think. And so I looked at the list, and the number one candidate was a person that is a temp currently, has been with the county for a number of years, really knows the job and is doing a really good job. The number two candidate is someone who was coming from Ramsey County, was the number two candidate by maybe 4 points or so, was a Hmong interpreter there, knew the kind of system, but obviously hadn't been here with us. And so I had a conversation with the hiring manager, and I said, out of these two individuals, which individual keeps us at our capacity, does a good job of keeping us functioning and keeping us where we are, and which of these individuals is a person that expands our capacity to serve our community. And so we had that conversation, and she made the decision to hire the Hmong person who was the second, as opposed to hiring the first person. And I don't know if we didn't have that conversation, if that would have necessarily happened, because oftentimes we look at the numbers and say, this is number one, so I'm going to take that person. And so, those are the types of risks and opportunities that the internship is supposed to spark. And so she ended up applying for some seed money for the scholarship for this individual. And so during her probationary period, I ended up paying out of my budget her probation, and then they kept her on past her probation. And so...
But that, for me, is an instance where your seed money should not be used.
Okay.
Because they were going to hire someone and they had a budget to do it. So why would they take the little bit of money you have in order to kind of plug their hole?
Okay. Did you say, I'll help you with the financing? Did you offer that?
I did offer that. I said that there may be some dollars associated with making that happen. And so...
But they should have made the decision based on the person and the quality of the
Right,
person
not based
versus,
on the...
well, I can get money for 6 months and don't have to take it out of my budget.
So...
We talked a little bit about Snail Lake. Is it Snail Lake?
Golden Lake.
Golden Lake Elementary School.
Yeah.
And I know there was some communication issues, and hopefully that got resolved. Your concern was that maybe they should pay something, $20 or something, because then they would feel that they're paying for the service. That.
But I think that, and I don't know what was communicated, but kind of the comment that I got back to me was, I got this, basically that you had shared with kind of your private business, and they were kind of like, what?
Okay.
And obviously, I don't know what dollar amount is out on your private business site. I've not gone and looked at it. But a couple of concerns that I have about that is, it's within Anoka County, so why would we be having someone directed to your private website? Because that really is outside of what we had discussed earlier.
Yeah.
So that's my first question. And then my second question is, obviously, I don't know what fee structure is out there, but it's very different than $20 that you mentioned.
Yeah. So in that particular incident, what I directed her to was there's a part of my site where people put in their information so that I can have so I can have it written in my calendar. And so that's what I directed her to. And if that was confusing, I will clear that up for her. And so that's why it was directed, because I don't have a site here in Anoka County to necessarily have people fill that information out. And in that form is specifically what people want training for. And so
And they were looking for which communities?
she didn't say which community she was looking for. She said she was looking for some cultural competence training for her staff.
Yeah. In relation to education.
In relation to education. And that's stuff that I can obviously offer. What I didn't know was, the size of the class, the number of people, where, dates, all that kind of stuff. And on that form that I sent her, the link that I sent her is all that information that I would need for to make a determination of how to proceed. And so it may have been simpler and easier had I had a link on Anoka County's website, because it just goes into a database that gets put into my calendar. So I can make that happen or not, but I don't currently have a mechanism for people to give me all that information.
So you don't just ask people for that information?
I do ask people for that information, but I didn't ask in this particular case. Yeah, I didn't
When you
ask.
ask, are you saying, I got a website here, fill it, respond on the website, then I'll follow through?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're kind of in a difficult situation. We got, I don't know how many elementary schools in the county and junior
Yeah.
highs and senior highs, and we can't be providing something for everybody.
Right.
So, how to communicate with them. I always believe in telephone, so if possible, to bring contact and forth. So I don't know if you've got any follow-up?
Quick question. Can I have 5 minutes with you doing this now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Show people how.
So anyway, I guess, we have this issue with the school and how to communicate with the community and to ask. I think using your private website gives mixed messages. It's like, yeah, I'm an employee of the county, but, I should also do this business on the side. Why don't you contact my side business and we'll work out.
Because which one is yours? Is yours the teaching tolerance or is yours the other one?
mine is not teaching tolerance. Those were
Every culture? No?
nope.
Which, so what?
Yep, if you want to go directly to my website, it's andrecohen.com.
Okay.
Those were resource links that I had given her.
Okay.
So I think that's one of our concerns, or my concern, is that people don't understand what's going on when they're a county employee, they ask for advice, and they give them a private website, and they think, he's just trying to improve his side business.
Yep, and that's not,
Right.
that is not what I'm about.
When you have a side business, it's very much like what you're doing here. You have to, it's easy for people to think, which is he doing now? Even when you
Yeah.
make copies, is he making copies for his side business, or is he making copies for his county stuff? I mean, all that kind of stuff gets really muddy, and I don't know, I don't have an easy answer how to make sure it's clean, but, and I think, the M.A. Johnson gave you the $10,000 retainer to do stuff with joint law enforcement, and that wasn't really clear what your expectations were even at that point, was it?
No, and my direction from them was to just give them a quarterly report, and so that's what I did, and so that's what I did.
Well, I guess we want you to be an effective person for us.
Yeah.
I think one of our big goals is to get more and more people of different cultures and ethnicity into our government system here as far as employees. How best to do that, and I don't have a good, clean answer. And then the second one is to provide training on diversity to the sheriff or however we can do it. I know that your bag lunches, I don't know if you still do that, but that was good. We had a lot of good comments. You've been part of the diversity committee in human services. So those kinds of things are good. It's when, I don't know if you've had anybody giving you clear direction of where we want you to go. Because I think you've kind of been left to do some
Kind of
things on your
fend for
own.
yourself. And,
Yeah.
when I look at this form, speaker request, and you go through it, ask for the name, ask for everything, and then, address, start time, end time, size of group, present your budget. It has 5 to 8,000, 8 to 10, 10 plus, scholarship request, fall coupon. Anybody who looks at that is gonna, because she was like, ooh, it's way too expensive for us. And I was like,
Okay.
so, yeah, something has to be done differently, and I guess, so where have you been charging? In what instances? And how much have you been charging within the county in order to bring dollars back into supplement your budget? And, what was the goal and how much have you raised?
Yes. So, ending where we began, I don't know specifically what my target should be. I do know that through inter-county transfers, I was supposed to get $3,000. I don't know that folks have that within the county to make that happen. And so, so I have raised just about $1,000, and the base price is $500. And then if they say they can't pay $500, I ask them to get as close to $500 as they can. And so,
So what are you basing the $500 fee on?
nothing. I'm not using data to make that
Because
assertion.
legally, we cannot charge a fee that is more than what our costs are. So that is an issue, and that's kind of why we have each year, twice a year, we kind of go through the county board and we set our fee schedule. And so we have to actually evaluate what the cost is of providing that service in order to come up with a fee that is legal.
So, I guess you could easily figure out what your hourly wage is with benefits and so forth.
Right.
We tended not to add all kinds of other
Right.
extraneous stuff on there. And so if somebody wants you to come out and it's $50 an hour, let's say, or $30 an hour, whatever it comes up to, you can certainly charge some prep time, if you have to do prep time. If you don't have to do prep time, and it's a 3-hour speech or a 3-hour presentation, to me, $150
Right.
$40 times 3 hours plus an hour prep.
Right, if you take a look at what, the cost of your salary and benefits and whatever, that's basically.
We really should probably get that on as a fee then.
Okay.
That we would charge for things that you can't do, that normally are not part of your job description.
Right.
Charging inter-office stuff gets real tough. I think
Mhm.
Human Services pays for part of your budget
Yes, they do.
salary.
Yeah.
So that we've always kind of thought you need to have some priority there because a lot of the stuff you get involved in would be Human Services. I can't remember what the percentage is anymore.
I don't remember either. But I certainly can do that. And
And then, again, I would say, I know that the county board actually appointed you as one of our representatives on the ACAP board, so I would say that would definitely be a priority. And, if I guess I'm just looking at other than that board, which boards are going to make sure that we're getting more minorities to be employed at Hanover County? And if these don't help you to reach that goal, then you probably don't need to spend your time doing that.
And I'm probably going to say, you don't have to go on and dump them all tomorrow, but come up with a plan.
You don't know.
We're trying to help you.
I'd be like, "Whew, I'm done." I'm like, no. So,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I just think we need to look at prioritizing where your time is spent, and that needs to be on really trying to meet some of those goals within our affirmative action plan that we put together each year. And then, I think at your diversity committee, I don't know if you are on a quarterly basis, if you let people know where you're at with those goals, but I think that that's an important piece of it, is making sure that here's what the goal is, and this is where we're at, and trying to meet that goal. And maybe we didn't make strides, but we were able to interview this many people, because unless you continually have that in front of you, it's very easy that becomes not the priority. I think training is an important thing, but I think that isn't the main priority. The main priority, like Jerry said, is making sure that we try to get a more diverse workforce.
Okay.
And if you develop a plan to do that, we need to help you do that.
Right.
Okay.
It might be coming to some of my staff meetings, maybe some of Don-Isle staff meetings, starting to talk about maybe temporary employees as a way to get minorities in here, so they're not competing with 350 without
Right.
a chance to
Get their foot in the door.
get the foot in the door. Right.
It really needs to be, ultimately, everybody needs to be working on trying to move that ball forward. And so, otherwise, if you're kind of the lone person trying to do it, it's a tough deal, because you're not the one that you're not interviewing for those positions. And so, I think having that discussion and keeping it in people's minds is important.
So maybe you could do a couple, 3 things. Number one, kind of evaluate those boards and say which of those are not that important that my being on it doesn't make a whole lot of difference as far as in Oakland County. Secondly, what kind of plan that you have to implement getting more minorities in here? Maybe a training plan, and then other ideas that you might have, and then come back with that information in a month and take a look at it. Now, I hate to not completely be ignorant, but is there an ongoing work group that kind of gives you guidance? We did have a committee. I don't know, does it meet very often?
Yeah.
Or?
We meet quarterly.
Who's all on that?
Sullivan is on it. The rest of the committee is leaving me right now. I have someone from the attorney's office. I have someone from highway. I have someone from.
Is there any county board members on?
Yes, Commissioner West is on that. She typically has a meeting that doesn't let out until we begin, so we try to wait for her. And sometimes it doesn't happen, but
Maybe you should
she's
look at changing the time.
Yeah.
For her.
Yep. So there's pretty decent representation on there, and there's some folks from corrections as well as the sheriff's office, and I can get you the minutes and that
No,
kind of
that's
stuff.
fine.
The interesting thing is they don't give me direction really. What I do is give them direction, and so I wish that there was a way to flip that so that I could get some direction from them, but I don't know.
I don't think my sense because I also sat on that committee back when John was
That's
there, is that I don't think that that committee has ever been given any clear guidelines as to what their role and function is. I mean, they basically come and listen and they'll say, oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea, or I'll volunteer to go and do this, and that's kind of it. And so I think that that's part of it.
The other thing is we should try to figure out a fee.
Right.
You know, what would be your hourly fee? Some schools said, we want you to come. You say, well, I really don't have time with my county job to do it, but I could make some time, but we're going to charge you and don't, you know, come back. I think we need to talk more about that, what that fee would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And you know, yeah. So yeah, we need to.
And I think if there's some sort of a form that, I mean, even if there's a Word document that you put together and you email it out to them and they fill it out, I mean, that may need to be
Yeah.
the way that it works.
What are you looking for?
Right. I mean, you could have some of the same questions, just not through here.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
So why don't we plan after the first of the year, get together again and
Yes, we're
we'll work on
Okay.
this?
Yeah, excited.
Sounds
Just
good.
give me a call when you feel you're ready, and then we'll work on that.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
One thing about our meeting, secretary, you know, it used to be a regular meeting.
They're all yours. How are you, Paul? I'm good. Yeah, I did. And yourself? Good. How's the farm?
Well, Dana's got a place picked in Northfield for the next farm V2. She's had some interesting things that she's learned disentangling herself from one business partner and starting a partnership with somebody else.
Okay.
Because the first guy that bought the land that she farmed in Minnetonka didn't take it really well, but she wanted to dissolve that partnership and go to somebody else to be a landowner for them. That's been very interesting for her.
So, I take it you took legal action.
Well, they had a partnership agreement, and he was stretching some of the terms of the partnership agreement to make it difficult to dissolve. Any partnership agreement has a way to dissolve it. And she thought that because his farming operation was such a small part of his enterprises and wealth and whatever, that she could just say, well, I want to do something different now. I want to dissolve the partnership. And so let's follow this procedure in the partnership agreement. And instead of a reasonable divorce, he took it as a personal thing. So he's just trying to make life difficult. And when you're rich, you can say, well, I'm going to get a lawyer and sue you. Has a different kind of context than before. And you say, well, I don't have any money. I can't buy a lawyer. Do anything back. So, and it's not, he's not going to lose any money. The land that he bought in Minnetonka, he was planning on redeveloping anyway, so he's going to make a triple money probably. So he's just kind of...
It's just principle for
He's
him.
kind of being a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
I think he's never had somebody just say they don't want to work with him. So he's taking it personally.
Yeah. All right. Hope we'll see you later.
Okay.
All right.
How's this going?
They're going okay. you know, I'm trying to, and this is probably a bad expression, but trying to help HR get some balls to say, we want to be in charge or responsible for training in the county.
Oh, okay.
That's what we want to do. People are hemming and hawing. Yeah, I'm like, just
There
say,
should be something up and down the table.
that's what I told them. I said, you've been doing this for so long. Yeah, just means you got to get more noise. You need to make it. Yeah, I sat down with Keith Kirby this week for about 2 hours. I explained Moodle. I explained, I've been developing a lot of courses and that are SCORM compliant.
Yeah.
And I was telling them that we can upload those into CourseMill and all that kind of stuff. It's funny when people have a little bit of information become really dangerous. Because he said, I don't know if this is going to work because this is, CourseMill is SCORM 3, compliant 3. I don't think that would work. Have you heard of SCORM 3?
I don't follow it that closely.
Okay.
I could see there's different levels.
Yeah. Nobody's really going to leave, so, we'll see how that works. But I have a bunch of stuff. He was really excited. I think I've carved out a niche for myself that I will do the soft skills stuff, and I'll stay away from sexual harassment. I'll stay away from HIPAA. I'll stay away from all of those other domains that people have attachments to, and I'll just stick with soft skills stuff. So,
Into Boca Raton.
I know we have a double. I have no control. Because we're doing our part. People are not. That is the hiring manager. If it's not. You know what I'm saying? It's all the same. But to say that is to imply something about an individual that no one wants to talk about. For example, we have a huge pay discrepancy between males and females. It's documented, but nobody wants to talk about it.
We're going to adjust it for grade levels and what is responsibility.
Well, within those grade levels, they're still what's defined, and equal responsibility for the administration. So you have division managers, about 70 cents to the dollar.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. No, that's where we're at. And I was talking to HR, and we're a hair's away, like a percentage point or less away from being out of compliance, which would open us up to lawsuits around that particular thing. So, I don't like living that close to the
How are you?
Let me know when you start doing your applications and stuff for seasonal hire, because that's usually in January, right?
February 1st is when it launches.
Okay, cool. Because there's some stuff I want to make sure that I work on getting some people there, make sure we get some resources to make those outreaches happen to those communities.
And I got to tell you all of them over and over. We never have problems finding people. At least right now.
Okay.
It just, if it comes down to dollars that you're spending.
No, we never spend. We only invest.
Oh, okay. The dollars that you're investing, I just don't want you to invest dollars that don't necessarily need to be invested if we already have the resources. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it
And
does.
I understand you're looking to different populations.
Yeah. So that's my all right.